Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 52. Just about 3 weeks until kickoff of the NFL 2023 season, man. Of course, Chiefs-Lions going to start the season off. This episode, we're going to cover Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Coach of the Year as well, with MVP, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Years. We'll do those next week. We're splitting them up. And then we'll also, cover little what's been going on between those Eagles and Browns, man, two of our teams. And obviously, we got one more top 10 list for y'all. It's going to be running backs for this week, man. So we're going to get top 10 running backs to finish off today's episode, man. How excited are you for this season coming up, man, before we get into these awards?
It's that time of year, man. Football right around the corner. First week of preseason already underway. So, getting little glimpses and peeks of what could be, happening throughout the season. So it's fun, man. Football's finally back. We were just talking about fantasy football, drafting, that's upon us. So it's always fun. Football, it's the best time of year.
No doubt, man. So starting off, you want to start off the awards this week, man?
Sure, yeah, I'll start it off. Which one? We go offense first?
Yeah, let's go offense, defense. Coach of the Year to finish it off.
Yeah, that's how I got here anyways. Okay, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I picked, because you mentioned you had like runner-ups and stuff. So for the offense, it was between two people for me. I think it'll be a lot different from last year. Last year, you didn't really have the QB hype. That's why you saw Garrett Wilson kind of, run away with the award. But this year, there was, I believe, 3 quarterbacks taken in, like, the top 10 or, like, the top 5, I think, actually. Yeah. So there's a lot of quarterback hype. Will Levis, he went early in the second round. So there's some names to throw around. But ultimately, for me, my Offensive Rookie of the Year, I picked Anthony Richardson, and this was kind of a pick just based on the upside. I mean, all of those guys are talented, and these NFL awards on the offensive side and the MVP, it's kind of a quarterback award. It's the most important position, so I wanted to start there. And when you look at Anthony Richardson, we saw what he did at the Combine. He put up those crazy numbers, might be the most athletic quarterback we've seen at the position, and then in recent years, we've kind of seen the quarterback position evolve, and, those athletes, those players that are able to move outside of the pocket and affect the game through the air and specifically on the ground have, really, really gotten a lot of attention. I think it started with Lamar Jackson, him in 2019 winning that MVP based off his running ability along with his passing ability. We've seen what Jalen Hurts did last year, second in the MVP race. Had the most rushing touchdowns as a quarterback, I believe, in a season. He was running it all over the place. And then Justin Fields didn't really do much with his arm, but that dynamic ability on the ground. I think most rushing yards for a quarterback in a season last year, got a lot of buzz. Now he's projected to, be a really, really good quarterback in this league. So looking at Anthony Richardson and the athletic upside, I mean, it's all there. Even if he can't put it all the way together through the air at first, he'll be an elite dynamic athlete on the ground, and he'll be in that same offense Jalen Hurts was in last year with Shane Steichen, coming over, running that offense for the Colts. They just came out today, said he'll be their starter week 1, so he'll get all the reps. It might be slow at the beginning, passing-wise, the touchdowns and, the interceptions might be high. You saw in that first preseason game, he threw that little the fadeaway interception off of one leg, but
that Harden pick.
Yeah, off the back leg, just threw it up there. It was a bad read, but I think Anthony Richardson, the talent is there. He only played 1 full season at Florida as a starter, so not a lot of reps starting underneath him. So if he can, get there mentally and understand the game and process the game and just get on the right track, I think his athletic ability and, just how good he is as an athlete right now will be able to carry him, and he can put up the crazy numbers. He could have the highlight runs. He could honestly have, 5, 6, 7 rushing touchdowns on the year, those big 40-yard rushes. He's capable of that, and he's a dynamic playmaker. So if he's able to, do all that and do all the flashy stuff for an award, I think, the upside is there, and I think he has a really good shot. Now, the person that was between him is who I think is your pick is Bryce Young, and I think he's the better pure passer, and he processes the game a lot better, and he's a lot more, intelligent on the field. But I just think Anthony Richardson has that higher ceiling and has the highlight play ability that, someone the size of Bryce Young, and he isn't the athlete Anthony Richardson is. So I kind of went on the upside, highlight, flashy pick. So I'm going to rock with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, man. Obviously, my pick, Bryce Young, for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And you mentioned it, IQ, man, going to Bama, sort of panned out past few quarterbacks that come into the league now. Tua's shown success. Hurts has been to a Super Bowl. Bryce Young.
Mac Jones
has had some success. He had a good rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know about the rest, obviously, but
hey, he's got an offensive coordinator now.
Yeah, that is also true, man. It wasn't the best situation for him in just the scheme and obviously play calling. Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator at heart, should not
Joe
have been.
Judge, special teams coach.
Joe Judge, but he's probably better off than Patricia was. But we're not here to talk OCs right now or Mac Jones. Bryce Young, he's got the arm talent. He's got the accuracy of quarterback you want. He's able to scramble, not like, AR over there in Indianapolis, but he's able to be mobile in the pocket when he needs to escape. He can throw the ball on the run a little bit. Undersized for sure is probably, his biggest question mark coming into the league. Kind of the size of Kyler Murray and, company of those little QBs in the league. So obviously probably going to be some growing pains, especially in Carolina. You're not dealing with the best team in the league. Like they got a couple key pieces, mostly on the defensive side of the ball with Brian Burns, but Bryce Young, expect him to make, kind of an immediate impact. Might not be huge, but definitely the most NFL-ready quarterback. That's why he was drafted number 1 overall. Going to be a day 1 starter. And sort of my runner-up was Bijan Robinson.
That is also a really good name.
Over there in Atlanta, just because the fact of, the running back has won this award plenty of times. I mean, I can remember in 2018, Baker had a solid year, but it was Saquon Barkley came onto the scene, crushed it. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I wouldn't be surprised, Bijan goes for 800-900 yards, especially in a run-heavy offense. He could go for 1,000. Touches paint a few times, and then he could end up winning it if there's a little shakiness with the quarterback, which you expect because they're a rookie in the NFL. They're not going to be, slinging it like Pat Mahomes, but he's sort of an anomaly. But Bryce Young, Bijan Robinson, my 2 picks for Offensive Rookie of the Year for sure.
Yeah, and Bijan's a good name. I didn't really think of him for Offensive Rookie Year, but he could easily win it. I just think, it's going to be a quarterback. If any of these guys play decent, I just think I think for Bijan to win it and these quarterbacks to play, like, at least okay, he'd have to have, like, a crazy, crazy rookie year, which, with his talent, is possible. And hint, hint, we'll get into him later on in the show. But I just think, with the upside of Anthony Richardson and the readiness of Bryce Young, and even if you want to throw in C.J. Stroud, we saw him against Georgia have that improvisation and be able to make plays outside of the pocket and move around. Shaky first week, but against the Patriots, but he has talent. So I think with those 3 top guys, I'm sure one of them will pan out, and I think we'll see that early on, and I think they have the best chance to win this award.
Yeah. Up next, man, you want to start it off with Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, so Defensive Rookie of the Year, this one was a lot easier for me just because I was able to use my Eagles bias, and it came down to 2 players on the Eagles, but, I'm going to just go with Jalen Carter. It sucks what happened. He kind of slipped in the draft. He was, at the beginning of the draft process, he was looked at as, potentially the first player taken off the board by the Bears before they traded their pick. Still was, projected to go super early. Then, some of the character concerns and off the field stuff got in there, and he was able to fall down to the Philadelphia Eagles. So the talent is no question there. It's just, can you get the consistent, effort and stuff out of him? And I think on this Eagles team, the biggest thing that will help Jalen Carter, I believe, is he'll always be fresh on the field because the Eagles are so deep on that defensive line. I think we're always going to be able to see Jalen Carter at his best. He won't be overused. He'll be able to be rotated just like he was on that Georgia D-line. He's going from one great D-line to another. So we'll be able to see Jalen Carter at his best every time he's on the field. I mean, you saw his first ever snap as the Eagle, that preseason game against the Ravens. That little clip went viral where he just hit a nice little inside move on the guard and got right towards the quarterback. Instant pressure. Reports of him throughout camp have been really, really good. He's been killing it, killing the Eagles' first team O-line. Some think is possibly, the best O-line in the league. Showed out today and, this week against the Browns, who have a really good O-line. And
I was going to say, you might as well say what you told me.
They run the ball good. So talent's there. He's in the right environment. And, I mean, looking at the other people, like, for this award, DBs have been really good as of late. Woolen and Sauce kind of came out last year big. I was looking at some of the DBs. I was like, Christian Gonzalez, he'll be in that Patriot scheme. He'll be really, really good. He's a playmaker. But I just think Jalen Carter's talent and the talent around him will elevate him, and I think he'll have a really, really good rookie year. So that's my pick, and Eagles bias.
So no Eagles bias on this side. My pick was Jalen Carter as well. And, I mean, you kind of stated it, man. He's been balling out so far in camp. I was looking at a couple reports that the best rookie so far in camp, not just Eagles camp, NFL camp, might be Jalen Carter right now. So, and it's no doubt, I mean, this guy was a projected top 3 pick. Like, no doubt, bubble. It was gift wrap. And then, the off-the-field issues. That's something that, a lot of young players kind of deal with. So it's definitely not, something that's lightly looked at, but it's something that it happens in the NFL. People make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's how they bounce back. Can he bounce back? And if he keeps those off-the-field issues, he's not going to have a problem on the field. I mean, the dude is he's going to be elite at the position, not yet there, but he's a dog on the field. And I have no questions about his talent coming out of college. I mean, being a top 3 pick as a defensive lineman, you could kind of set it in stone. But my runner-up, I was thinking about Christian Gonzalez, but another guy on the defensive end, I'm going with the number 3 pick, and Will Anderson is sort of my runner-up. The only thing with him, situation not as good, obviously, in Philadelphia. You mentioned Jalen Carter. He's got those bodies around him that they're sort of going to key in on. And last year, rookie Jordan Davis, not really a pass rusher as much as he's run stoppers. So even on those third down packages, you could see Jalen Carter out there more, and he'll be fresh as well, like you said, especially with the rotation. Still got Fletcher Cox, who's going to be, maybe taking a little bit of a back seat, more rest for the vet as well.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be surprising, Jalen Carter, but I do like Will Anderson and Christian Gonzalez as well. I felt like he slipped a little in the draft, tremendous size, Bill Belichick team. We know they can produce corners. I mean, they do it every year almost, it seems like. So
yeah, and for the Patriots, it's always like a corner like we've never heard of or super late in the round. But now they finally get a blue chip first round, really, really talented player. So it should be fun to watch how he develops in that Patriot scheme on defense.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Jones came onto the scene out of nowhere, so it's not
Jack Jones, Jonathan Jones, all these players, man. Malcolm Butler when he was there.
Gilmore was a first round pick, was he? Or late maybe.
I don't think he was.
I think he was around 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing out the blue.
Gilmore was he got drafted by the Bills too, so it was kind of later in his career. They kind of just picked him up. But yeah, I mean, they find ways to get the best out of their DBs. That's kind of what Bill Belichick is. His mainstay, he started off as a DB coach, so that's where his history is. So that New England secondary is always going to play, above his talent level. So I don't think they'll be all right in New England.
You want to go ahead with Coach of the Year, man?
All right, Coach of the Year. This one was interesting. There were some names I could throw out. I was thinking, Andy Reid's always a name that's going to be up there, but I kind of think at this point, him and Mahomes kind of have that LeBron effect where they're just always so good. It's like, can we just
Voter
give it to
fatigue?
Yeah. Can we just give it to someone else? Kind of like how LeBron was robbed of his MVP in 2018 by James Harden.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Harden didn't rob him, man.
Had to get our Harden straight in there. But yeah, voters fatigue. I don't think it'll be.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, unless the Chiefs go like undefeated, maybe then you won't have a choice. But there were a lot of names. There are a lot of new coaches moving around. Like interesting teams set up to do well. But for me, I picked a name that I'm familiar with and a team that I was high on since last year. So I'm going to go with Doug Peterson, man, for the Jaguars. If, Trevor Lawrence takes that elite step like we want him to, the addition of Calvin Ridley, another year for ETN in the offense. I've been hearing a lot of reports of Tank Bigsby, being a really, really solid backup and, like a power back. So that offense is dynamic. If that defense continues to take strides in the right direction, like we mentioned, was it last episode or a few episodes ago, talking about the Jags where, they got a lot of early picks, early talent invested in that defense and along that defensive line. Everything's there. The division really, really helps. They could possibly sweep that division. I think they're the heavy favorites. If they can I had them projected at 11 wins, but, if maybe one of those close games, the ball rolls their way, if they can somehow get 12, maybe even 13 wins, and with that schedule and in that division, they could possibly be the 1 seed in the AFC. It's a possibility for this team, and and if they get everything right, everyone stays healthy. Like I mentioned, Trevor Lawrence, the big deal. Doug Peterson, a coach with Super Bowl experience. He was there when Carson Wentz kind of had that crazy year when he was going to win MVP until he got hurt, and then him with Nick Foles winning that Super Bowl and having success there. Doug Peterson's a really, really good coach, and it seems like those guys down there in Jacksonville really like to rally around him, and he gets the best out of him. So I think Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence can be a really, really successful coaching and quarterback duo for the foreseeable future, and I think this season will be the start of that, and I got him winning Coach of the Year.
No other runner-up honorable mention from you?
I mean, this was just the first name that came to mind. If you want to look at, I don't know. I just think the Jags are set up.
Okay.
Like, they have the best.
I mean, you don't
like,
need to give
everything is
name.
right. But I just got Doug Peterson. I mean, you could say runner-up or who you think. There's a lot of coaches,
Yeah.
I just think Doug Peterson, they have the best chance, in my opinion. But, I mean, listen, if you want to give it Mike McDaniels, maybe, the Dolphins, that offense looks good and Tua stays upright. They can put up a bunch of points. They can win some games. It's tough. I mean, listen, Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, they were just in the Super Bowl. If they have another successful year, Kyle Shanahan, if he figures out what's going on there at quarterback, apparently it's Brock Purdy.
No question.
Yeah.
So what was his quote?
He said he would have to melt on the practice field or something like that. Yeah, so I mean the 49ers will be really good, but I'm kind of looking at, whereas Brian Dable last year and the Giants kind of came out of nowhere and they took that big leap, where I don't think the Jags were as bad as the Giants were taking that leap, but I think they have the chance of all the teams that'll be good next season, taking that next leap. And I think, seeing that progression of the Jags will kind of help him get over the edge. But there's a bunch of deserving coaches. Every single year, Mike Tomlin, he's kind of in the same Andy Reid category where the Steelers in that roster isn't good, but he wins games, bro. Mike Vrabel.
Never been under 500.
That's the thing. Mike Vrabel and the Titans, that roster, I mean, who's doing as much as, not a lot of coaches can coach those rosters, to those records. I mean, he's a really, really good coach, one of the most respected coaches in the league, but I just think, Doug Peterson and the Jaguars are set up to have the most success.
Okay. Well, it came down to two names for me, and I honestly, you mentioned my boy Mike McDaniel. I guess I'll put him for runner-up for our sake. I'm going to go runner-up first. Both of these coaches had the same record, 9-8 last season. Mike McDaniel, obviously first year, they were off to a hot start. Tua gets injured. They slow down a little bit. They finally get a playoff berth since the first time since, 2016?
What was that year they played the Steelers?
It was the year they played the Steelers, and Matt Moore was quarterback.
The hit heard around the world.
Yeah, it heard around the world for sure. Who was that? That was, what's his name? It was the linebacker.
It was Bud Dupree.
Yeah. He laid out Matt Moore.
Yeah.
That's nonetheless, man. They just stacked
Never forget that hit, bro.
You want to tell a story or what?
I mean, it's not really much to say, bro. I was just taking a nap during the game. I heard a loud hit, and I was like, that was an accident outside the window or whatever. But then I just see the replay of Matt Moore getting killed. I'm like, oh, that shit woke me up.
Yeah, so that woke you up, man. The last time the Dolphins went into the playoffs. Haven't won the division since 2008.
Shout out Tony Lippin, man.
I know some Miami fan knows Tony Lippett out there, but
we can go on and on about that game.
Yeah, other than that guy, I mean, if you're not a Dolphins fan, you should not know that guy. Yeah, AB was killing him. Special teams was killing him.
He did
jump over the line for that field goal. Big momentum swing. Tony Lippett, man. Listen, I don't knock anybody on their career. Take this as a joke, but you should have stayed out wide receiver, fam.
Fam, that was the game where I just had to admit I was wrong and X was better, bro. Because up until then, bro, I was like, bro,
yeah,
Tony Lippett was the guy,
freezing
bro.
Cold take. Tony Lippett was better than Xavier Howard. See how that went down,
I wasn't believing, man.
Anyway, let's move away from that dreadful game.
Yes.
Coach of the Year, Mike McDaniel. Last time they won the AFC East was 2008. I believe Chad Pennington was the quarterback at the time for the Dolphins. Wow. Won in the playoffs, lost, of course.
To the Ravens, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And they haven't won the division since last year. Wild card berth at 9-8. Skylar Thompson, quarterback. Not the best situation. They're one play away from beating the Bills in the playoffs in Buffalo. Very hostile environment. You put Tua on the field, maybe a different game. But this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, team stays healthy. Mike McDaniel should be in that conversation for Coach of the Year, especially if they win that the division for the first time since 2008. Be a huge accomplishment for a Miami coach. But my Coach of the Year, man, I'm going to a guy that did coach Miami and a guy that I didn't believe in when he first became the head coach of the Detroit Lions, and Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, he's got these players bought in, man. He's always been a player's coach and energizer. And the guys in Detroit love him, man. So you can't deny the word out of the locker room. If you got your players back, it usually pans out. Obviously, you still have to be a coach at the end of the day. And he seemed to balance, both of those well so far, especially last year with his team going 9-8. And the Lions have a legit shot of winning the division this year. So I think, if they do win that North Division and the Dolphins are not in that same category, I think Dan Campbell does come away with it. I like your Dougie P pick. Not a bad one. I really didn't think about the Jags. But, Dan Campbell, all the abysmal years in Detroit, all the sad years of Megatron and Matt Stafford and not being able to win much. Dan Campbell brings it in. Jared Goff, established quarterback, kind of a revamped organization with some life in it in Detroit. So, he's looking to change the culture and kind of already has. He continues to do so. He's definitely going to be in that conversation for Coach of the Year, and he's my pick for the 2023 season.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And like how you didn't think of the Jags and Doug Peterson, I didn't really think of Dan Campbell, but I like it. It's kind of, I feel like it's been like a kind of a build up from last season because they were on Hard Knocks. We got to, see how he's like the ultimate players coach. And there was a little bit of hype, but we knew the Lions weren't going to be really that good last year. Kind of surprised a lot of people. And then coming into this year, building off of last season, I think they have like top 10 Super Bowl odds to win. Like, I believe in the beginning so far this year, they have a really, really good shot to win that division in the AFC North. A lot of stuff, or not AFC, excuse me, NFC North, a lot of stuff shaking around. So, that division's wide open. He's the ultimate players coach. I think I saw a video of him earlier this training camp of him, like, doing burpees with the team and stuff like that. So, like you mentioned, the players love him. They'll run through a wall for him, and I think they're like the Jaguars of the NFC, so I like the pick.
Yeah, they're right now sitting at plus 2,200 and sitting at 9th on the list. So
Yeah.
Dolphins right behind them. So your Eagles back at 2 with plus 800, just in case you wanted to know that one, man. But that wraps up our offensive, defensive rookie of the year, along with coach of the year, as I mentioned, MVP, offensive and defensive players of the year, coming next week as well. We did say we'd touch on that Browns-Eagles practice this week. They got their preseason game coming this week.
It's Thursday, is it? Or is it later in the weekend?
It might be Thursday. I'm not 100% sure,
Yeah,
but I know that the Browns starters aren't going to be playing. I'm not sure about the Eagles.
Well, Eagles didn't play any of their starters last week, so I don't think though. But yeah, it's Thursday.
Yeah, so Thursday night. I think, today was the last day of the joint practices. They had 2 days, quote unquote, unofficially 1-1. Both teams went. Browns won day 2. Eagles bounced back day 2. Had a terrific day, according to you. But
according to me, yeah, like everyone else that was there and that was reporting it, I'm just making this stuff up.
All right, but both D lines ate during the two practices. Two above average O lines. The Eagles consider one of the best. The Browns probably a little bit above average.
But both of these teams have really, really good lines, defense and offense.
Yeah. And the defensive side showed out, man. I know your boy Jalen Carter put on a show, man.
Yeah.
I know Browns.
Reed Blankenship, man. Making some buzz in the NFL waves. Picked off Watson 3 times in 2 days. 2 today.
It was 3 times in 2 days. But
and I believe
we were talking about D lines, man. You just wanted to bring it. Go ahead.
No, this is like, I'm just saying, like, it's weird because like both of the interceptions, the one he had yesterday and one today, like funny enough, they were both tipped both by Zach Cunningham, like by the same player. Yeah, the same player tipped both of the passes, and then the same player intercepted it, which is kind of wild. But it's that tip drill, man.
Now the tip drill, you know what they say as a quarterback, that ball's in the air. It's like it's feast time for DBs when that ball's hanging in the air. It feels like an eternity for them. So, I mean, there's just good ball skills, being at a good spot at the right time, and then just finishing off the play. And
yeah, Reed's gonna be nice. He was a UDFA, I think Western Kentucky last year, so not a lot of real hype behind him. But with the injuries of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson last season, he saw a decent amount of playing time towards the end of the season. He's stepped up a lot during training camp. He's gonna be the starter this season. He pretty much has that safety spot locked down, and right now they're just kind of trying to figure out who's gonna be beside him. Kayvon Wallace getting some first team reps. Terrell Edmonds came over. He's getting some reps too. So pretty much just trying to see who they're playing next to him at this point.
And I know Browns had a couple injuries, man. Nothing major. Maybe Jack Conklin, concussion, probably the most severe. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward both left. They ended up saying Denzel Ward was an illness, which is weird because it was mid-practice. But
he came. Was that today?
That was yesterday.
Well, he was back today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they both were back.
Yeah, Myles Garrett was just like precautionary. He walked out after the practice, signed autographs, and he was walking around just fine. He joked around and said it was his old age. So
yeah. What is he, like 27, 28?
Yeah, bro, he's under 30.
Yeah.
But I did see Deshaun, Amari Cooper had a good little connection going. Elijah Moore wasn't out there this week. That's one guy that's been on the same page with Deshaun, but he showed off strong today and then slowed down those interceptions, especially today. 2 of them today, had 1 yesterday. So, obviously, Eagles winning in the turnover category on that. I did see, I think Hurts only
Njoku was having a pretty good...
Njoku was,
pretty good practice as well.
I know...
Hurts, I believe,
think Hurts threw a pick.
1 yesterday. Yeah. I don't know if he threw one today.
Yeah. I know he threw 1 yesterday, but...
Yeah. I think he underthrew Smitty and Denzel picked it off.
Yeah, it is what happened, but you can't get that connection with Smitty all the time. So
it was there today. So
the Warden was out there, man.
And today he was throwing fucking fadeaway touchdown passes in the corner of the end zone, man. Holding that release. It's like he did like a little walk off, but Bro, I was listening to the preseason game of Eagles against the Ravens on Saturday. Bro, when I say this name, you're gonna laugh. Dog, I did not know Tyree Cleveland was on the Eagles, bro. He was cooking with Marcus Mariota in the
No
second
way.
unit, bro. Yeah, apparently he's been having a really strong camp. Like, bro, I was
You didn't
listening.
even know
there.
Jill was on the team?
Bro, he was getting like, he's like the fourth string, like not even, bro. He's like fifth or sixth on the roster, bro. Like, I've been seeing, like, hearing no reports, nothing at all, bro. But then, like, in the preseason game, it's like, oh, Tyree Cleveland with a big play. He's like, Mariota finding him often. And now I'm seeing, like, a bunch of reports in camp and stuff. And they said today, like, Tyree Cleveland came up with a big pass from Marcus Mariota, and they have, like, a really good connection. So I was like, dang, UF legend, dog. I was like, I haven't heard this name in a while.
You know, it's funny. When I saw that, I think I sent it to you, that clip of Will Greer throwing Antonio Callaway.
Yeah.
I thought it was about to be the walk-off when he threw it to Tyree Cleveland. Yeah. Absolute track speed down the field, man. Tyree Cleveland, very talented coming out of UF.
Wasn't he on the Browns? Did he play on the Browns?
I think he was low-key undrafted drafted in, like, 7th round. Mm-hmm. I think he was. Maybe not. I know Antonio Callaway, obviously.
Yeah, Antonio Callaway, yeah.
But I like Tyree Cleveland, watching him at Florida. Let's see, man. Yeah, Cleveland was selected by the Broncos in the 7th round.
Oh, the Broncos. Yeah, the Broncos. Okay, yes.
Yeah, he played for the Broncos for 2 years, and now the Eagles.
Yeah, I knew it was like an orange team. But yeah, it's just tough because the Eagles have so many receivers. But he's looking like could probably make the roster or practice squad at least. But I mean, right now he's looking like our number 6 receiver.
Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, not much you can really go off for the camp, joint practices. Man, it's really about the quarterback and the skill positions, kind of. I mean, obviously, D-line, there's a lot of sacks that might happen, might not happen. Hard to judge those and stuff like that. But overall, I mean, I was happy with what was coming out of Browns camp. I know you're probably happy with what was coming out with Eagles camp.
For sure.
Both teams brought good energy, and expect both these teams to compete during the regular season. The main thing for me, I know the Eagles play the Dolphins this year. They don't play the Browns, but
yeah, they play the Dolphins at home.
Maybe see them in a little Super Bowl.
I think that's one of the games where we're in the Kelly Greens, too.
It's
for real? It's going to be tough, yeah. Might be the first game we wear them, actually.
Kelly Greens, man. Anyways, you got any other comments on the joint practices?
No, nothing much, man. I mean, we'll see during the preseason game. Like, I don't think any of the Eagles starters will play. They didn't play any in the week 1, so we'll probably see Mariota get the start. Although
Tyree Cleveland,
Tanner McKee looked a lot better than Mariota. He looked really good coming out in the second half, commanding that second or third unit at this point. But so it'll be interesting to see who gets the start. But yeah, I'm sure none of the big names will play. I don't think they played in week 1, so probably just try to get more reps for the young guys and guys on the bubble. Still trying to figure out, roster spots and who's going to make the team, who can step up. So, like you mentioned, it's just football at this point. You just want to watch it.
Well, the second best quarterback to ever grace Cleveland in the past decade will be starting against them. So, shout out to DTR, man. He'll be out there balling.
Coming from Watson's job, man. I heard he's been balling for real.
Nah, DTR has been balling.
Should have put him down for Rookie of the Year.
I don't know.
Watson gets hurt in week 1.
All right, let's calm it down, buddy.
Then DTR carries the Browns.
I mean, I'm fucking.
Bam! If he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, you'd be ecstatic. Like, even if it is at the expense of Deshaun Watson.
Anyways, man, but DTR has been balling. It's sort of known thing. Browns quarterbacks flip off that Washington sideline. I guess it's just a Browns thing. Johnny Football did it back in the day, and DTR did it in the preseason game last week. Don't ask me why, man, but it happened. Anyways, a game coming up this week on Thursday, week 2 of preseason, and then with just 3 weeks left, I mean, we're getting right there to the start of the season. We're excited, man. But nonetheless, man, last top 10 list we got. We're going to take it from 10 to 1. You might as well start us off this week with the top 10.
All right. And we kind of talked about how, like, before we started recording, whereas, the receivers and quarterbacks, it was a lot. There was clear, talent where it's like, all right, there's a few names I can throw in here, but, I mean, running backs, down the list, it kind of got a little cloudy, man. It's like, just got really top 10, like, a lot of stuff going on. And I just think it's because of, at this point in the NFL and where we are, the life cycle of the running back, it's so short. These guys, you see what's going on in the media, fighting for those contracts, not getting paid, holding out. So these guys' careers don't really last long. They're trying to take advantage of it while they can. So, with that being said, it was kind of tough to find. There was a mix of some staple veterans, some names we know, and then a lot of young guys, rising and coming up. But to kick it off at number 10, I went with Ramondre Stevenson, man, up there in New England last season. We kind of got to see, him showcase more as the number one running back. His entire career there in New England, he's been splitting carries with Damian Harris. They've always had a committee in New England, and they'll continue to have one with them just signing Zeke. So Ramondre won't be, the star. But with Damian Harris getting banged up last year, throughout the season, towards the middle and the end, Ramondre was, the 3-down back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And for Mac Jones in that offense where the weapons on the outside are kind of, under, league average, not the best. Ramondre Stevenson has been a really, really good weapon for him. Kind of a safety valve, running the ball. He's dynamic. He's elusive. He can get out in space. He can run through you and around you. In today's day and age, a lot of these backs, they got to be able to, catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he had like 60 receptions or something like that last season. Easily catch the ball out of the backfield. Mac Jones, not known for having the strongest arm, so that check down when it's there, it's Ramondre catching it. I mean, I think he could be a lot higher, and I think he definitely has the talent to be, a workhorse 3-down running back, but that's just not how they do things in New England. It's always a committee. It's always been. Even back when you look when they had, like, LeGarrette Blount, James White, and all these, Danny Woodhead, all the other running backs, it's always a committee. But I think Ramondre Stevenson is a really young, talented running back who has shown flashes that he can do it all. So I got him at number 10.
They definitely keep their running backs fresh, which is why I kind of snubbed him from this list just a little bit. At the number 10 spot, man, I got Alvin Kamara. He's suspended for a couple games, but expect him to bounce back. Last season, a little bit of a down year. We know what he can do. Dual threat running back, can run out the backfield, definitely catch passes, up there with the most elite pass-catching running backs for sure. I mean, it was just, 3 years ago he had that 5-6 touchdown game, it was, whatever it was, where he went off.
Against the Vikings.
Yeah, so Alvin Kamara, we know he could be potentially a top 5 back in the league. And that's kind of why I threw him at number 10 on this list, just because, it still is Alvin Kamara. He's done this before. And expect him to kind of bounce back, especially after that last season where he didn't play the full season either, but now we kind of expect him to get full circle after, what is he, suspended 2 or 3 games?
3.
So you're going to miss 3 games, but expect him to turn it around this year and get back to his old version of himself.
Yeah, I've been hearing that he's been really, really balling in camp. And I also heard, like, apparently, like, because, the reason he was not as good or as efficient last year, I guess there was something wrong with, like, his, I don't know if it was, like, his foot or leg, but apparently, like, the muscles, like, in his lower body and his leg or foot, like, just, they weren't properly aligned. So I guess he got that fixed or whatever. I'm not sure how that happens. But, yeah, the reports coming out of the Saints camp saying Kamara's been looking really, really explosive, and he's looking good. But for me, at number 9 coming in, I mean, like, it felt kind of, like, weird putting this player so low. But I think talent-wise, he can be a lot higher. But I think he's just... Which is also really weird, like, going into a lot of these running backs. Like, you got to take into consideration their situation, like, what's going on. Like, will they even play? Like, what's happening? At number 9, I got Jonathan Taylor, man. What was it, 2 years ago? Led the league in rushing. We know how good Jonathan Taylor is as a talent, but was banged up last year. Apparently got banged up again during the offseason. His ankle's not 100% healthy. Holding out with the Colts. Apparently wants to be traded. Told the Colts that he's not coming back until he's fully 100%. So clearly he's still banged up. Just a lot of question marks around Jonathan Taylor's situation right now. But as a talent and as a pure runner, Jonathan Taylor is one of the best. Super, super fast. Runs downhill. Can run through you. Catches the ball a little bit out the backfield, but isn't as versatile as some of these other names. But, I mean, as a pure talent, as a runner, it doesn't get much better than Jonathan Taylor. It's just his situation right now. Everything going on around him is why I got him knocked down a few spots.
No doubt, man. Number 9 for me, I got someone who's, in my opinion, a little bit undervalued at the running back position, but I guess all these guys are undervalued.
Yeah.
I got Aaron Jones over there in Green Bay, man. New quarterback, another dual threat talent in Aaron Jones, a guy that can really catch it out the backfield. He's due for, maybe 500 yards this year with Jordan Love at quarterback out the backfield. And he's definitely could be a 1,000-yard rusher as well. But, splitting time with A.J. Dillon, probably won't see as many carries, but he's going to be that passing down back for sure, like he always has been. And he's in the open field. I mean, he's just a pure runner, and he's hard to bring down in that open field. So Aaron Jones at 9, just kind of like Kamara, dual threat. Expect him to have a big year, especially with Jordan Love. You're not going to be pushing the ball down the field, like Aaron Rodgers was. But he's that check down. You could hit him at the backfield if you want. If you need to hand it off, I mean, he's there as well. He could do it all. So Aaron Jones, a little bit undervalued. Got him at that 9 spot this year, man.
Yeah, that was a name where I was contemplating, bro. But he didn't make my list. The only thing with him is, like you mentioned, one, A.J. Dillon there. He's getting a little up there in age, and with Jordan Love at quarterback, I don't know how explosive that offense is going to be. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too sure how many, opportunities he'll get to, make those big plays down the field where we saw Aaron Rodgers hitting him on those long wheel routes and scoring touchdowns and stuff like that. I think he'll definitely be productive usage-wise, but, I mean, listen, Aaron Rodgers is not back there. They're going to see a lot more stacked boxes. No Defenses doubt. Aren't really going to be worried about, the pass as much with, Jordan Love being a question mark. I do think Aaron Jones is still a really good talent, and he's still a really good player. I just don't know if we'll see that, elite production and efficiency we're used to seeing from Aaron Jones. That's my only question. But moving along to number 8, I got Tony Pollard. Now, last season, he kind of had his breakout year with Zeke taking the back seat and Tony Pollard kind of, taking over the keys from Zeke in this Cowboys offense. Dak Prescott, we know what he is at this point. He's a solid starting quarterback. And when the run game is best for the Cowboys, that's when Dak is the best. And Tony Pollard, although he's not the same style of running back as Zeke, I think he can have that same effect on the offense. Super, super efficient. A big play waiting to happen whenever he gets the ball. Catches it out the backfield. Once he hits that corner, it's like no one can catch him. Seen it firsthand against the Eagles. Makes it really, really tough on the defenders. And I think he's just a really, really talented guy who going into this year, it seems to be, he's going to get 3 down back roles. Zeke's not there anymore. It's looking like he's finally the number 1 starter. After 2 or 3 years sitting behind Zeke, waiting for his turn, he finally gets in. I think Tony Pollard has the talent to take over the keys of that backfield and be successful. So I got him at number 8.
I mean, I'm not even going to touch on it. You just took every word right out of my mouth. I got number 8, Tony Pollard, as well. So just for all the same reasons you just touched on, I mean, kind of finally getting that RB1 roles. We're going to see what he's truly made out of, but he definitely deserves to be on this top 10 list.
Yeah, and then moving along, number 7, I have Austin Eckler. Now, he's been, over the past couple years, a guy that's been he has a nose for the end zone. I think like 20 touchdowns last year. We know how good he is out of the backfield as a receiver. Catches a ton of passes. Justin Herbert's favorite, safety valve, especially last season when, injuries came to Mike Williams, injuries to Keenan Allen, those guys in and out of the lineups. When they weren't there, Austin Eckler was, and it seemed like every single game, Justin Herbert looks for him out of the backfield. He's a really good runner, too. I think he's undervalued as a runner just because of how good he is as a pass catcher out of the backfield. But has really good vision, super elusive. He does that nice little spin move. And like I said, man, he just has a nose for the end zone. He scores touchdowns all the time, whether it's on the ground or through the air. I think Austin Eckler might, outside of a name we'll touch on, he was probably the best pure pass catcher running back in the league. So I got him at number 7.
Yeah, last year, Eckler,
I think he had like 90-some receptions.
3 games with double-digit catches. He went 12, 11, and 10.
Yeah.
He's had 15 in a game before in
That's
2019.
insane. Yeah.
He went against the Broncos, 15 receptions, 86 yards. But that game last year against Seattle, he had 12 catches, 96 yards for an average of 8 yards a catch out the backfield is insane. So, at my number 7, I got the guy who you had a little bit lower on the list, but it is because of that question mark in Jonathan Taylor, and he could easily be in that top 5 conversation. But, he kind of wants to be traded after, Irsay said, well, we're straight up not paying this guy. And Taylor's like, oh, I really don't want to play for this owner. Like, understandable, of course, but we saw the last time a running back held out at his position. I don't know if that's something he wants to do, man.
Man.
Yeah, so, we'll see with Jonathan Taylor, but one of the best pure rushers in the NFL, and there's not, many of the just pure downhill rushers. I think there's only 3 on this list that are pure downhill rushers compared in that Jonathan Taylor conversation. He's one of them when he has the ball in his hand. Had a bit of down year last year, but, just the usage and the system he was in, what can you expect in that situation? So, number 7, I hope to see him on the field. One of the best running backs in the league. Would be, a shame if he sat out the whole year for sure.
Facts. All right, so moving on to number 6. This was one fun pick I had, man. At number 6, I got Bijan Robinson.
Left him off the rookie of the year list.
Yeah, I got him but that just shows you the importance of quarterback and running back. Top 6 running back. But
Say.
Yeah, can't get a rookie of the year vote. Listen, man, you kind of touched on it when you talked about him earlier, but we've seen these young guys come in at the running back position and produce early. We mentioned, you talked about Alvin Kamara, his rookie year. He was super, super productive catching the ball. We've seen, Saquon Barkley. He had that big year in 2018. Ezekiel Elliott in 2016 when he came on the scene. You can keep going. Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, all of these guys were able to produce as soon as they came into the league. And I think Bijan Robinson is in the same class as these guys. Coming out of Texas, I think he averaged over 6 yards per carry. He's a super, super dynamic athlete. They're saying he's the best prospect since Saquon, might be even better. So, there's just a lot to love when you see he's going to this Atlanta offense. Arthur Smith bringing over that Tennessee offense. And, we'll talk about Derrick Henry in a few here, but all they do is just run the ball down there in Atlanta, man. And when you want to just run the ball, having an elite weapon like Bijan who can really, really catch out of the backfield as well as run, super elusive, I think he'll put up a lot of big plays. He'll be fun to watch, and I think he'll be an instant impact for Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. Didn't have him on my list, but definitely when you talk running backs, they could come out and make the most instant impact for sure in a football game, and definitely can get that recognition. My number 6, Austin Eckler. You talked about his nose for the end zone. Dual threat, probably the best pass catching back there is. Well, he's in that conversation, just like you said.
Yeah.
But expect him to have another big year, getting up there in age. Only question mark, might see a slight decline, but I don't think he's going to be this year just yet for Eckler. His production's been crazy over the past, couple seasons at this rate. Maybe the past 5, I'm not even sure. But Austin Eckler, number 6, once again, another very talented back.
All right. Number 5. I felt like the top 5 was a lot easier than, 6 through 10. The top 5, you can move these names around, but
I was going to say,
me,
I think we have a different order.
Well, yeah, but I think these are, the elite top backs. At number 5, I got Josh Jacobs, man. Kind of like Jonathan Taylor, another running back where he's holding out for that contract, not really happy what's going on there in Vegas. But when you look at what he's done over his career in Vegas, and then especially last year, leading the league in rushing, coming over in that offense now. All they do is just run the ball, run. And Josh Jacobs is really, really good. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield. Remember him coming out of Alabama, that big game against Clemson when he caught that pass and ran the dude over right at the end zone. When he was at Bama, he was more of the pass catching running back, and because they had Najee, and he was more like the down the hill pure runner. But then Josh Jacobs would come in on third down, catch the ball, do big plays. But over his career in Vegas, he's shown that he's also a really, really, really elite ball carrier. Super efficient, gets the volume, produces with it. Like I mentioned, led the league in rushing last year. I think Josh Jacobs, if he comes back, if he's in this offense, if he plays, which is the big thing, he's holding out. Is he coming back to camp? Is he not? I mean, Derek Carr's not there. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw what he did with McCaffrey when he was he didn't even play with him on the Niners. My bad, but those running backs in that system, they get targeted a lot. Yeah, Elijah Mitchell, all those dudes. You get a bunch of volume. I don't think it'll be any different for Josh Jacobs. He's one of the, like I mentioned, one of the elite backs in the game right now.
Number 5, man, I got Saquon Barkley. Once again, another dual threat back. So elusive in the open field. We've seen how strong he is as a runner as well. I mean, not maybe like the upper body physicality, but we all know his quad size and how much he can squat, all that. Saquon, crazy athlete, sort of had a comeback season last year, staying healthy. I mean, if he does that again, he could be in conversation for top 3 easily. Like you said, these top 5, you could flip-flop them around, man. End of the year, wouldn't be surprised at any of them. Danny Dimes had a good year in New York last year. If they keep it up, man, Saquon Barkley value just keeps going up. I mean, the question is always his health, never his talent. So if he stays healthy, one of the best backs there is. And I mean, he does it all.
Yeah, so at number 4, I have a back that's it seems like he's just been doing this forever, and it's Derrick Henry, man. Mr. Consistent. I feel like every year it's like, is Derrick Henry going to take that step back? He's getting older. Running backs that get, 200 carries a year don't really last this long, but Derrick Henry seems to just be able to just keep running the ball. And, like I mentioned earlier, with Vrabel, he's able to coach all these decent teams. Maybe it's because they just sit back and just hand Derrick Henry the ball the entire time on offense. Huge human being. I mean, what is he, like 6'3", 240, something like that. Runs like a deer, can run through you, has that stiff arm. Probably, arguably the best just downhill runner in the league. Once he gets to that second level, DBs don't want to tackle him. As a former DB myself, I couldn't imagine trying to tackle Derrick Henry in the open field. That's definitely one of those plays where I just chop his legs and hope for the best.
Played a little outside linebacker for a little, man.
Yeah, I don't know. What would be worse, bro? Meeting Derrick Henry in the hole or trying to tackle him in the open field, bro?
Probably in the hole. I would rather just...
So he doesn't get that full head of steam. But, either way.
Well, no, actually, I take the open field just because he might get that full head of steam, but you might be coming from, like, the side. In the gap, bro, he just lowers his shoulder.
Stiff armed, bro, like Josh Norman.
You take a stiff arm or lower the shoulder, Derrick Henry. Come on.
I don't think either.
One's embarrassing, one's painful. Painful. Wow.
I don't know. The way
6'3", 247.
Yeah, listen, bro. Derrick Henry's looks like a man amongst the boys out there on the field. Keeps producing. Last year, we saw him catch the ball a little bit out of the backfield, which we haven't really seen for him. So it's really cool to see him kind of, add that versatility to his game. If he wants to stay around longer, that's, what everyone wants these running backs to be able to do. They got to be able to block, run, and catch. So Derrick Henry's showing that he can do a little bit of everything. He's just Mr. Consistent at this point. Give him his flowers while he's still out there running. I think he'll have another pretty successful season with the Tennessee Titans. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins. He's kind of at the, twilight of his career as well. Traylon Burks, really young guy. Tannehill coming off an injury. All of these names on the offensive side. Derrick Henry is the only real consistent one they have there. So, listen, man. Mike Vrabel, don't stop what you're doing, man. Just keep sitting back and handing that ball to Derrick Henry.
And my number 4, I got Josh Jacobs, man. You just touched on him not too long ago in that 5 spot. Josh Jacobs, you said at Bama he could catch the ball. We know he could catch the ball in the open field. Big screen back as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great runner, and probably, last year coming on 1,600 yards. He had 1,653 yards on 4.9 yards per carry, and at that volume to keep it going for that long of a season. 25 years old, 12 touchdowns rushing as well. He can do it all, man. And now with Jimmy G, they still got Devontae Adams, so it's not like they're just going to be stacking the box all day. They got weapons on the outside. Lose Darren Waller, of
Hunter
course.
Renfrow hopefully coming back.
Yeah, Hunter Renfrow was quiet last year. I mean, banged up most of the year.
Yeah, he's a solid slot receiver.
But we see what he can do as a route runner. Just open up that gap for Josh Jacobs even more. And, I mean, last year, receiving 400 yards through the air, his best receiving season as well. So, I mean, you had 2,000 all-purpose yards, Josh Jacobs, scrimmage yards, actually. But, I mean, one of the most elite backs. Jacobs due for another big year if that contract situation gets resolved.
Yeah, so coming in at number 3, I have Saquon Barkley. And kind of for all the reasons you touched on, but I think for me, the biggest thing is Saquon Barkley is like literally that New York Giants offense. Like, he's the reason Daniel Jones got paid. You mentioned his injuries. I kind of touched on, him having that big rookie year, but the versatility, the explosiveness, the elusiveness, it's all there for Saquon Barkley. We've seen him, catch those screen passes, catch the ball out of the backfield, make a man miss, and then fly down the sidelines. I mean, being a fan of the Eagles and playing him twice a year when he's healthy, you can just see how dangerous and how electric he is on the field with the ball in his hands. Like I mentioned, last year he was that heart and soul of that Giants offense. They were run heavy. They leaned into what they do best, giving Saquon the ball, running that play action, getting Daniel Jones out of the pocket, moving him around, kind of just, leaning on Saquon Barkley to make Daniel Jones' job easier and ultimately having his best season and, getting that contract. And it's kind of messed up where it's like, okay, yeah, we'll give Daniel Jones all this money, but Saquon Barkley, the person who our offense is based off of and who, made our quarterback's job easy, we won't be paying you. So kind of like it's like a theme for all these running backs at this point, contract disputes, although he did just get, off I think they reconstructed, fixed his contract or whatever, but no more holding out for Saquon, off of the tag, but still on like a short 1, maybe 2-year deal. But regardless, Saquon Barkley, like you mentioned, if he's healthy, if he's on the field, the talent's there.
At my number 3, you touched on him, heart and soul of this franchise, and Derrick Henry. I mean, come on. He's put the Tennessee Titans on his back, carried them to the playoffs, possibly winning the AFC title almost. I think how many years ago was it? Or I think they were close to getting to the AFC title, but
no, weren't they in the AFC?
I think they were in the championship a few years back, and then they were one play away of beating the Ravens in the divisional round to go back to the AFC championship. Obviously, didn't happen, but regardless, actually, I think that was a wild card weekend. Whatever it was, Derrick Henry's put this franchise on his back. I mean, pure downhill. Don't want to tackle this dude. He's a walking highlight reel. Yeah. Opposing defenses,
especially when he plays those other teams in his division, bro. It's like always
Jags,
always
killer,
the Jags,
like,
the Texans. Like he's running off big. Yeah.
I mean, you play him twice a year, and I know they sit in that film room and they're like, "Damn, we gotta go against Derrick Henry again." Like, defenses are not rocking with it. 8-man boxes. I mean, he's the reason these guys stack the box, and I mean, even if they had a passing threat, I still think they would try to stack the box as much as they can, just because this dude's going against a 5-man box or 6-man box. I mean, it's just matchup nightmares for Derrick Henry all day, and it's easily time for him to feast. And you mentioned him catching the ball at the backfield. I mean, just then getting Derrick Henry outside with the screen, getting second level, going downhill against the DBs. That's when I wouldn't want to be a safety trying to tackle him. That's for sure. But Derrick Henry at that number 3 spot every year for the past, since he's been in the league, he's been a top 5, probably top 3. This is probably the lowest I've ever ranked him, but top running back.
All right, number 2. Let's ruffle some feathers. Specifically,
I already saw your list, bro. So I already knew this was coming.
Listen, Nick Chubb, I had him at 1, but I mean, I had to put McCaffrey ahead of him. But I mean, listen, that's no slight to Nick Chubb. I think he's the best pure running back in the league. I think what does he average over 5 yards per carry in his career, and it's not like he's getting 10, 8, 12 rush like attempts a game. They feed Nick Chubb the ball. Nick Chubb gets the attempts, he gets the volume, and he's still super efficient. He still produces. I feel like he's been one of the most slept on players in the league. Finally getting some love now, where a lot of people do consider him to be the best, if not the best, the second best, or one of the best runners in the league. Super consistent. That Browns offense, ever since he's came in, has just kind of been, catered to around him. He's been their best player on offense pretty much once he stepped in. And Nick Chubb, I'll let you talk about him because that's your guy on your team. So you know a lot more about him and, that Browns team. But as an outsider, it's just he's fun to watch run the ball. Like, it always looks like he's going to get tackled for 2 yards or maybe a loss, and he just ends up, creating 5 or 6 yards or getting a first down. And he never seems to go down on the first hit. Super, super good after contact, really good at balance. And, I mean, if it wasn't for McCaffrey being literally a receiver and running back, I would have him at 1. But Nick Chubb, one of the best backs in the league. He could be one. If he's your number 1, I wouldn't really care. He's been my 1 before, but I just think McCaffrey and the system is better. But, yeah, Nick Chubb is super good.
Well, at my number 2, I got CMC at number 2 for sure. And sort of like Saquon, if healthy, this guy, dual threat, and his ability in the open field to just be elusive and one of the hardest guys to wrap up and just tackle. I mean, it seems like every time you think you got him, he goes right around you. And he's a hard runner as well. I mean, he's quick and shifty, but he's a hard runner, and he can get downhill very quick. I mean, the dude can do it all. Probably better pass catcher than he is rusher, but he's still an elite rusher. Like, not knocking his rushing, it's just he's that good in the open field. We saw the Niners use him at wideout a couple times in a couple sets.
Even played quarterback for him.
I was about to say, against the Eagles in the NFC Championship. He could do it all, man. I love watching him when he was at Stanford. He was one of the most electric players in college football. Continued it in the NFL. I mean, this is your dude number 1. I'm not mad at it. This guy's ultra talented. So CMC at my number 2 for 2023 backs.
Yeah, I mean, my number 1 guy, CMC, Christian McCaffrey. You pretty much touched on it. I mean, the ultimate versatile weapon, man. He can do pretty much anything on the offensive side. He'll block for you. He'll catch. He'll run the ball. He'll even throw it. I think he's thrown a couple touchdowns or a couple passes in his career. We've seen what he can do in Carolina, but it was just really, really fun and amazing to see how they unlocked him in San Francisco last year. Reports coming out of camp I've been seeing, I think they said he's getting more snaps at receiver in the slot this year than he is at running back so far during training camp, which wouldn't surprise me. But regardless, if Christian McCaffrey's on your team, if he's on the field, he's a playmaker. And, the 49ers, all those playmakers and ball carriers and receivers they have on that team makes it possible for a quarterback like Brock Purdy, like Jimmy G, not Trey Lance, but those guys to be successful in the league and produce. So, I mean, you just can't say enough about what McCaffrey is capable of on the field, and you pretty much covered it all. I think he's the best running back in the league right now. Let you get your moment with your guy, man.
Yeah, Nick Chubb, man, my number 1 pick for running back. Just the ultimate professional. You don't hear about him. He's not flashy. He's not in the media just because of his personality, man. He's not an expressive player. Only guys in Cleveland really know, if you're Browns media, like his personal side. He doesn't care about any of that flashy stuff. He's a DC nerd. Calls himself Batman. Like, game day, you'll see him post a little Batman picture. But, this is camp, he's been smiling around, seeing his old teammate Greedy Williams in that Eagles joint practice. They're exchanging some words and whatnot, but Nick Chubb, he'll just look you dead in your eyes and just run you over. I mean, you mentioned it. Dude's a bowling ball. He's not, the size of Derrick Henry when it comes to height, but is probably just up there with ability to take down as a pure runner. I mean, it's so many times where you think it's that 2-yard gain, just like you said, and he goes breaks it. I mean, some of his best highlights is him breaking a tackle and then exploding, down the field. It doesn't look like he's running hard, but he is. And he could get up there with speed. Not the fastest guy, but it just looks like he's running slower than he actually is. And you see him outrunning defenders and just not getting caught. So obviously you got to be running pretty fast to outrun DBs. I mean, he's had 1,000+ yards for every year he's been a full-time starter. 2018, he was the backup to Carlos Hyde to start it. Finished 4 yards short of 1,000. Last year, 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns. And the weakness of his game was that pass catching. Had his best pass catching season, sort of, or one of. I mean, he had 239 yards with a touchdown, but I mean, you started seeing it later in his career of him becoming more of a pass catcher, sort of like Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. They lose Kareem Hunt, expect Jerome Ford to kind of get that third down back work, but Nick Chubb as well. They use him in Cleveland, but they have preserved him very well. I mean, I don't think there's many times where he's touching the ball 30 times, but he'll touch the ball 18 to 25. And I think when Nick Chubb touches the ball 20+ more times, the Browns are plus 70 win percentage. So when he touches the ball 20+ times, it's like the Browns are going to win. Mm-hmm. He had almost 700 yards after contact last year, 695. And so only 900 of those yards were untouched before contact. I mean, Nick Chubb, I could go on for days, man. I know Cleveland loves him. He's just the most dominant back, underappreciated, sort of getting that value now this year, but still not where he needs to be. But that's one guy that really doesn't care what anybody has to say. He's going to go out there, compete, man, and put the team on his back like he does. So Nick Chubb, number one for me, and I know you probably want to go back and say the top 10 out again.
Yeah, you can go ahead and do yours.
Yeah, at my number one, man, I got Nick Chubb. Number 2, CMC. 3, Derrick Henry. Number 4, Josh Jacobs. 5, Saquon Barkley. 6, Austin Eckler. 7, Jonathan Taylor. 8, Tony Pollard. 9, Aaron Jones. And 10, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, and my top 10 was 1, CMC. 2, Nick Chubb. 3, Saquon. 4, Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs at 5. Bijan Robinson, the rookie, coming in at number 6. Austin Eckler at 7. 8, Tony Pollard. 9, Jonathan Taylor. And Ramondre Stevenson rounding it out at number 10.
That's going to wrap up our top 10 running backs list of the 2023 season, man. Let us know y'all top 10 in the comments as well if y'all rocking with these lists or not. But regardless, man, episode 52, any last comments, takes, concerns, anything like that?
Nah, man. I'm ready for the season to come.
No doubt, man. Go to Go Pod on TikTok, like, comment, share, Go to Go, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, all of that. Tap in, share, like, comment, sub on the YouTube. Episode 52, man. Until next week, we'll catch y'all. Peace.